Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, October 18, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. He spent years in prison for a crime he did not commit, only to be killed by a cop doing a traffic stop. We'll show you what happened to a Florida man who died as a result of being killed by a Georgia deputy. Folks, how inept are House Republicans? Well, they have blown off again the insurrectionist, Trump MAGA-loving Jim Jordan, not securing enough votes to become the next Speaker of the House. He lost even more votes from the other day. We'll talk about that. Plus, President Joe Biden travels to Israel and speaks on the devastation of a hospital in Gaza. He speaks on where he says, where U.S. intelligence says, who actually committed the heinous act. Pennsylvania voters will be voting for candidates to fill the state's courts. The chair of the state's Democratic Party will join us to talk about these critical elections. Folks, that and more right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. It's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best. You know he's Roland Martin now.
Imagine spending 16 years in prison for a crime you did not commit, and then as you are traveling in another state, you're pulled over for a traffic stop, and you end up dead. That is exactly what happened to 53-year-old Leonard Allen Cure. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation says Cure became violent and assaulted a Camden County Sheriff's deputy after being informed he would be arrested during a traffic stop along I-95 near the Georgia-Florida line. The agency says preliminary information shows the deputy shocked the driver with a stun gun twice and then tried to subdue Cure with his baton before pulling his gun. Cure was stopped for allegedly speeding. The video we're about to show you is triggering to some folks, so we ask you to turn away at this moment so you do not have to actually see this video. Before I play it, a little bit more about Cure. He was the first person who was freed by the Broward County DA's office as they looked at old cases, and it wasn't long that he was out. And so I'm going to show you again. It's about a 12-minute video. I'm not going to show you the whole video, but here is this encounter in Georgia.
Step out. Step out. Get out. Get out. Put your hands back here.
I ain't doing shit.
Put your damn hands back here.
Who are you?
Staff Sergeant Alden, Sheriff's Office.
My name is Yahweh.
I don't care. Step to the rear of this vehicle.
In the name of who?
In the name of law of the state of Georgia. Step back here now or you're getting tased.
Me now.
Put your hands on the back of that truck.
Do you see that?
Put your hands on the back of that truck.
Back of the truck.
Both hands. Turn around. 34 Cannon, send me another unit. One non-compliant.
Still out of unit, route 34 at the 8th office.
Your name is Officer who?
Staff Sergeant Aldridge with the Camden County Sheriff's Office.
Who county?
Camden County. Put your hand behind your back.
Do I have a warrant? No. Excuse me.
Either put your hands behind your back because you're getting tased. I'm telling you that right now.
Why am I getting tased?
Because you are under arrest for speeding and reckless driving.
I'm not driving. Nobody was hurt. How was I speeding?
You passed me doing 100 miles an hour.
Okay, so that's a speeding ticket, right?
Sir, tickets in the state of Georgia are criminal offenses.
I don't have a ticket in Georgia.
You do now?
Why?
You passed me doing 100 miles an hour.
Offense and what? Am I going
Hands
to jail?
behind your back. Yes, you are going to jail. Hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Yeah, bitch. Yeah, bitch.
Stay down. Stay down. Stay down.
Too late.
Camden, shots fired.
Too late.
Shots fired, Camden. Stay down. Do not give up. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Camden, shots fired. Suspect down. Can you send me help? Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Cover him.
So, folks, Cure was freed in 2020 for wrongful conviction. In 2004, he was convicted for armed robbery and armed robbery with a firearm and assault. And then he was the first person freed by the Broward State Attorney Conviction Review Unit. I want to bring my panel here. Obviously, it was very difficult to have to watch that video. But I want folks to bring it to the beginning because I want to start there as I begin to question the panel. My panel, Robert Patillo, host, People, Passion, Politics, News and Talk, 1380 WAOK out of Atlanta. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center here in D.C. Joe Richardson, Civil Rights Attorney out of Los Angeles. All right, so I want to start the video from the beginning because that's where I want to start our perspective. So press play.
Step out! Step out! Get out! Get out! Put your hands back here.
I ain't doing shit.
Put your damn hands back here.
Who are you?
Staff Sergeant Officer Sheriff's Office.
My name is Yahweh.
I don't care. Step to the rear of this vehicle.
In the name of who?
In the
Come
name
back.
of
So,
the law of the state of...
all right, so Robert, we talk about these things a lot. First of all, we talk about how the goal is always to get home. But we also constantly talk about the role of the officer in terms of their attitude and how they approach certain things. Now, according to the Georgia Bureau investigation, he was going 90 and a 70 and increased to 100, then he gets pulled over. So you hear the officer getting out of the car. We all see it, we all hear it. So the officer is already at a 9-10. That's how the whole thing starts. He encounters Cure, who obviously is agitated for getting pulled over. Does the officer lower temperatures? Nope. They actually go higher. Your thoughts?
Well, one, I've done traffic tickets in Atlanta since, or in the state of Georgia since 2009. A super speeder ticket is a very serious offense, but it does not carry the death penalty in the state of Georgia. I think that's where we have to begin this inquiry, because when this officer exited the vehicle, he was clearly already belligerent. I very rarely see a situation where the officer starts yelling from, 100 feet away, get out of the vehicle, just somebody can hear you on a busy highway. Also, the officer didn't articulate a reason when he wanted him to exit the vehicle during a traffic stop. There was no indication of substances. There's no indication of weapons being used. It's a simple traffic stop for somebody going 90 or 100 miles an hour. You write them a ticket and then send them about their way. So there has to be some investigation as to why this police officer not only did not de-escalate, why they sought to actually escalate the situation going forward. And this is a horrible thing that the African-American community has to go through continuously. This type of trauma porn traumatizes communities, turns people against law enforcement. When we talk about this conversation around criminal justice reform, law enforcement cannot abdicate their duty as professionals to act professionally, to treat people equally. And I dare say if this wasn't a older African-American gentleman riding in with a wife beater on, or maybe this officer would not have that same attitude when they're getting out of the vehicle and escalating the situation. We have to start rooting out racial profiling, racial biases from policing, or else we're going to continue to see the number of police homicides increase as opposed to decrease.
So, Joe, it's interesting. So the police officer says you were going 100 and you passed me by. I remember being on a 2-lane highway leaving Bryan College Station, Texas, going back to my home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I remember driving, I was in a Mazda Miata. And I remember driving and I pull up on the side of a car. And then I realized it's an officer. Well, hell, I'm already speeding, so I go ahead and speed up. All right. So the officer pulls me over, okay? And he approaches my car and he said, "You really went past me?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hurry and get home." Now here's what happened here. The officer didn't get out of his car yelling and screaming. The officer didn't get out of his car and demanded I get out. So what jumps out at me is, if you're a police officer, why do I need to yell for you to get out of the car? In fact, stay in the car. I've seen other police officers say, hey, put your hands on the steering wheel. Put your hands on the outside. So the moment you yell, get out of the car, that person actually has a greater chance of coming at me in that very moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, you have got to set the tone. I think the problem is, building on Robert's point, which of course is totally valid, the problem is the thing that really can keep these situations from becoming deaths are the police doing things that are morally right, not just legally right. There's a question as to how much he followed their own policies. I'm sure that they have policies surrounding de-escalation and all those types of things. But let's say that it's not against the law technically for him to yell when he gets out of the car. But that makes him safer if he doesn't yell. It makes him safer if, and now here we are, Black folks, we don't know what the heck to do. A lot of times we want to sit in the car, of course, and say, okay, here are my hands. They're at the steering wheel. Your folks tell you all the time, make sure everybody can see where your hands are at every time. Call every move you're going to make and or ask before you do anything, as opposed to getting out. There's an argument that more could have happened to this officer with the guy getting out of the car. And then what happens is, once he gets out the car, he's not thrilled, but to begin with, he's compliant. He told him to put his hands on the car. He did do so. It seemed like this individual, who's not here to tell the story, of course, wanted to see the officer. And my sense is that's the reason he did that, as opposed to turning around, putting his hands on the car where his back was to the officer. But this is an opportunity still, if not for legal reasons, maybe for legal reasons, but certainly for moral and ethical reasons, to set the tone early so that you don't, put him in a box that makes him defensive, that makes him potentially non-compliant, belligerent, and therefore makes you less likely to have to use some kind of force where somebody doesn't walk away from that incident. The police going above and beyond is frankly what they're supposed to do, to follow the law. But if it's about being safe and staying safe, he would have approached it differently with his tone. He would have only matched that escalation if that escalation was there in the first place. And he may have gotten a very, very different reaction if he played it differently to start.
I want to play the video again, but I want y'all to move it forward to. I want you to move it forward. Just scrub forward, and then I'll tell you when to pick it up. So just scrub forward. Okay. Now bring it back. Bring that camera, the body camera. Bring it back. Keep going. All right, stop right there. Now play it from there. Now, folks, here's what you're gonna. Now I'm gonna talk over it. So go play the video. I'm gonna talk over it. All right. So have the sound underneath me. Okay. So you see, he puts his hands up. Then all of a sudden, he's touching the car. Now turn the volume up.
You see that? Put your hands on the back of that truck. Back of the truck. Both hands. Turn around. 34, can you send me another unit? One non-compliant.
Stop right there. Now I want you to bring it back. Just about 10 seconds. I want y'all to listen to what the officer says when he calls for backup. Press play.
34, can you send me another unit? One non-compliant.
Stop right there. Send me another unit. He says he's non-compliant. But the reality is, he actually complied. Now, Did he give him some mouth? Yeah, he did. But he's compliant. Okay, now I want you to go back. Press play, audio up.
Your name is Officer who? Staff Sergeant Aldridge with the Camden County Sheriff's Office. Who county? Camden County. Put your hand behind your back. Do I have a warrant? No. Excuse me. Either put your hands behind your back because you're getting tased. I'm telling you that right now.
Stop right there. Now, I don't know if y'all saw that. Bring it back, bring it back. You're gonna see the officer's left hand, you're gonna see a white hand. His left hand he's already touching him. And then all of a sudden, you can tell the guy's like a little ticked off because he's being touched. I'm gonna review in a minute, Rebecca, but here's what I'm trying to understand, Robert. Okay, driving 100 miles an hour, does that require an actual arrest in Georgia?
It does not require an arrest. It is an arrestable offense given additional factors, but there's no way to perform that as a required arrest. I've gone 100 miles an hour in Georgia and gotten a ticket. You don't get arrested automatically. Normally, protocol in this case would be that the officer would approach the vehicle. He would tell the individual to put their hands on the steering wheel to present their license or registration. They would then take that back to the vehicle. They will run the plates, run their license or registration to find out if there were any warrants present. They will come back. They would engage in a conversation with the individual to find out if there was a reason that they were going to that speed, such as a medical emergency, a child being born, etc., because sometimes there are justifications. At that point in time, they will issue them a citation for speeding, and then they will come back to court and go through the regular court process. That's how a speeding ticket goes. I think many of us are familiar with that. This idea that you get out of the car screaming at the top of your lungs for people to get out, as was said by you and as was said by Joe, you don't know what happens when that person gets out of the vehicle. They could get out and immediately start shooting. They could take off running. There's a very dangerous situation our officer put both himself in and the victim in this case in, and that's why police protocol has to be followed, and there needs to be a full investigation into this, and hopefully charges against this officer for violating police protocol.
The reality is, Rebecca, I doubt any of that happens, but the reason I wanted to walk through that it's because, again, we say this over and over and over again. The actions of the officer, in most cases, is going to dictate how the person responds. And if the person is responding to me heightened, it's not. I'm the one with the stun gun and all the laws on my side. I have the right to use deadly force. My job is to bring it down. To me, this is where, sir, you were driving more than 100 miles an hour. I pulled you over because you broke the law. I would like for you to place your hands behind your back. Sir, I will answer all of your questions, but right now, I need you to place your hands behind your back. That's a whole different tone than what we heard this officer use.
If an officer isn't capable of pulling someone over for speeding without taking their life, then that person should not be an officer, full stop. One thing that psychology tells us is that nervous systems want to respond to each other. So if you have someone who is heightened, who is very upset, then it's very likely that the person that they're interacting with is also going to match similar energy. The other thing that I think is also important based upon this footage that was released is we then see a third party actually interfering with a stop. We see it appears to be a Brink security officer get out of their vehicle and draw a weapon, a deadly weapon, and enter the situation. And never once did I hear the police officer say, hey, you get back in the car. You are interfering with an active police investigation. I did not hear that. So when we're talking about all the things that weren't done according to protocol, that should also be added to the list.
Absolutely, Robert. And again, to our folks who are watching, our responsibility at the end of the day, knowing full well how these cops are, is for us to get home safely. And the moment he starts tasing, the moment Cure begins to push against him, all of a sudden, you know what's about to happen. It was stun gun, baton, and then it was gun. And so obviously, Cure's actions or his reaction, then of course it goes to the next level. But again, officers are going to have to understand your primary job is to de-escalate. Nobody wants to get pulled over. You don't know, he didn't know that this guy has spent 16 years in jail for a crime he did not commit. He didn't know any of that. Nobody likes to get pulled over. But if I'm a cop and somebody is automatically agitated, my deal is Sir, I'm gonna need you to calm down.
And look, Roland, we got to stop teaching black folks to treat cops like they're bears or something. They, back away. Do not making sudden movements. Do not anger the bear. Do not do anything to make him aggressive, etc. The police officer is the one who's at work. That's the person who's at their job currently, who has to act in a professional fashion. They're the person who's protected by the color of law. They have the Constitution behind them. They wear the badge that gives them the ability to take human life. They're completely invested to by the state. Your tax dollars pays that person. That puts the onus on and the burden on the police officer to de-escalate the situation. This person has psychological trauma as a result of being illegally detained by their own government for the better part of a generation. That means that police need to take in consideration what they call in torts the eggshell plaintiff, somebody who has a predisposition which may impact their reaction to something. Because of this, police need to be both trained and understand that they have to take each person as they come to them, and therefore they have a duty under law to ensure that they are acting in such a way that will not escalate these situations. There were at least a dozen points that I saw where this officer could have de-escalated this situation. They did not articulate any reason for this aggressive arrest being necessary. They escalated to the point where deadly force was vitiated, and because of that, the burden still falls upon them. And I think we have to get laws in this country that are able to keep up with the new actions of police and the new actions of law enforcement when it comes to discriminating against minority communities, because I guarantee you, if there was a little blonde-haired, blue-eyed college girl in that car going 100 miles an hour, we would not be talking about her being dead right now.
And that's the thing, Joe. Again, the beginning of this, frankly, sets up the ending.
Yeah, it does. And what's so hard and what has to change is that this predisposition to feel a certain way about a particular person that you're stopping. In this instance, a black man sets the tone for where it starts. Now, we should be pragmatic, but if anything, police officers should be pragmatic and within policy. But if anything, yeah, be pragmatic and have it set the tone. But think of it this way. Maybe just because of the perception that police deal with a certain way, deal with black folks a certain way, that I ought to make sure, while keeping safe, that I go out of my way so that nothing can be said as to me not trying to de-escalate the situation by the book. If any predisposition towards how black folks are or how black folks think, or the statistics related to black folks being at stops and being much more likely to be killed than white folks, which is true, that should have made him pragmatic in the other direction, not pragmatically fearful, yelling to get out of the car when that actually makes him less safe. Unless, of course, that's where he wanted it to go, but pragmatic in terms of saying, I've got to de-escalate this thing for reasons of actuality and reasons of perception.
This is the dash cam video here, and you saw again how Cure was driving. I mean, he's driving. I mean, look, guys, I've been on highways a lot. I've seen people drive this way, and then all of a sudden you see a cop pulls up behind him. He's in a far left lane. Then you see Cure signal to get over. So he gets over into the center lane. Then obviously it's a truck there, so he gets back in left lane. He's bypassing all of them to get. And again, normally what happens is you get over on the right side of the highway, and so he's going forward to get past all of them, and so you should see him in a second get over. So he gets over, gets to the center lane, right lane, and now he pulls over. Go to the beginning of that video. Again, I want to see the beginning. So this is the beginning of the video. And remember, he said, "Oh, you blew past me." Pull the audio up. All right. So the officer, the sheriff, deputy, is all of a sudden the guy. So Cure, you see him. All right. Now, okay. So do me a favor. Stop right there. Now I want you to go back and play the body cam video, because again, I want you to hear what, go back to the beginning of it. I want you to listen to what this deputy sheriff said. Play.
Step out. Step out. Get out. Get out. Put your hands back here.
I ain't doing shit.
Put your damn hands back here.
Who are you?
Staff Sergeant Aldridge, Sheriff's Office.
My name is Yahweh.
I don't care. Step to the rear of this vehicle.
In the name of who?
In the name of law of the state of Georgia. Step back here now or you're getting tased.
I'm going. Watch me now.
Put your hands on the back of that truck.
Do you see that?
Put your hands on the back of that truck.
Back of the truck.
Both hands. Turn around. 34 Cannon, send me another unit. One non-compliant.
Your name is Officer who?
Staff Sergeant Aldridge with the Camden County Sheriff's Office.
Who county?
Camden County. Put your hand behind your back.
Do I have a warrant? No. Excuse me.
Either put your hands behind your back because you're getting tased. I'm telling you that right now.
Why am I getting tased?
Because you are under arrest for speeding and reckless driving.
I'm not driving. Nobody was hurt. How was I speeding?
You passed me doing 100 miles an hour.
Okay, so that's a speeding ticket, right?
Sir, tickets in the state of Georgia are criminal offenses.
I don't have a ticket in Georgia.
You do now.
All right, here we go. So again, he said you went past me 100 miles an hour. Again, the actions of the officer can determine the end result of a traffic stop. And nearly every time we talk about a black man being shot and killed at the hands of the police, it's a traffic stop. As Robert said, that's a ticket. It's a ticket. But now a family is planning a funeral. And the likelihood this officer getting off is probably 100%. Because they're going to say he resisted, cop had gave him proper warning, he had no choice. But I keep saying, cops have got to learn to start with de-escalation and not with escalation. Gotta go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the block.
Next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, actress, writer, and advocate Rae Dawn Chong is here to discuss her childhood and break down her life in Hollywood, a show you don't want to miss.
Well, even at my peak when I was getting a lot of stuff, as soon as I was working a ton, I heard people whispering, oh, we don't want to pay her because we're giving her a break.
Only on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol. We've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Well, another day in the neighborhood, folks, and they can't elect the speaker, y'all. So today, Jim Jordan lost again. Lost more. He got fewer votes than he did just a couple days ago, and it was utterly hilarious. Just roll the video.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 433, of which the Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 199. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 5. The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 1. The Honorable Tom Emmer of the state of Minnesota has received 1. Lee Zeldin of the state of New York has received 3. The Honorable Steve Scalise of the state of Louisiana has received 7. The Honorable Mike Garcia of the state of California has received 1. Candace Miller of the state of Michigan has received 1. John Boehner of the state of Ohio has received 1. The Honorable Kay Granger of the state of Texas has received 1. The Honorable Bruce Westerman of the state of Arkansas has received 1. No person having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, a speaker has not been elected. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
Okay, I know some of y'all at home are laughing just like I am. Keep in mind, the Constitution does not require that a Speaker of the House actually be a House member. So you heard John Boehner. He's a former House member, former Speaker of the House. And so anybody, I mean, any one of us could actually be voted upon as Speaker of the House. Just want to let you know that. But if you want to see how deranged these people are, this is former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Yesterday, but I want to hear y'all who he's blaming for the problem. This is too funny.
McCarthy. Let's listen to Kevin McCarthy here.
Now we have rules. We don't have to be stuck on the floor. The interesting part is why we're here. Every single Democrat voted to stop one branch of government. They created this mess with 8 Republicans. Every single Democrat did that. And so I think what we'll do is we'll go sit down. We'll talk to those that have difference of opinion and come back.
Did the margin surprise you?
Thank you.
Do you feel bad for Mr. Do you feel bad right now for Mr. Jordan? You threw your support for him. Do you feel bad for him?
No. Don't over read into this. This is about the same vote I had on my first vote out. Why we're in the no. Let's go back to how it got here. We wouldn't be here if every single Democrat didn't vote with 8 Republicans to shut this place down. That's it. No,
Republicans voted against Jim Jordan today on the floor, including 2 votes from somebody who's not even a member anymore.
Every single Democrat and 8 Republicans voted to shut down one branch of government. That is why we're here today. There's no other reason why we're here today but because of that. Now we had a vote on the floor. It didn't get to the whole point. Now we'll take a break, talk to people, and come back and solve it.
So how long? Is this going to be today?
Well, I'm confused. That's sort of like, that's sort of like me being in a Panhellenic meeting and I go, look, we lost the vote because the Omegas and the Kappas voted against us. And if Alphas voted against us, I'd be like, how you complaining about them when your own members voted against you? That's literally where these people are at now. So the new talking point for them is, this went badly because those damn Democrats, they're the ones. How dare they vote against us? Not we can't get our act together. Not we don't know what the hell we doing. No. We gonna sit here. We gonna blame the other party. Same thing happened on CNN. This is so hilarious, y'all. I saw this earlier. I had to play it for you. Watch this.
Austin Scott, who lost the conference nomination to Jordan last week, but is now firmly behind Jim Jordan. Sir, thanks so much for being with us. Should he keep going? Should Jim Jordan continue as his aides say he will?
Oh, yeah, I think he's going to continue. And if you remember what happened last time, I think it took Speaker McCarthy somewhere around 14 rounds. Brianna, we shouldn't be in this position. I mean, 208 Democrats voted with 8 Republicans to put us here.
But let me ask you, sir, McCarthy was never in a hole this deep.
I'm sorry?
McCarthy was never in a hole this deep.
But Speaker McCarthy was elected, and he was the Speaker of the House. He was the largest Republican fundraiser ever for us as House Republicans. I mean, the Democrats knew what they were doing when they put up 208 votes to take him out of the speakership, and that's what created the current situation that we're in. So then we had a conference meeting.
They didn't take him out of the speakership. I mean, you guys are the majority. But you guys are the majority, right?
96% of the votes came from Democrats, though, Brianna. I mean, just factually speaking, there were only 8 Republicans and there were 208 Democrats. I mean, 208 Democrats.
But, sir, who's in the majority?
Well, the Democrats were the majority of that vote, and when we have a very
who's in the majority in the House of Representatives?
The Republicans are in the majority, but the Democrats provided the majority of the votes to take Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership. In fact, they provided 96% of the votes.
Republicans provided the key votes. They're in the majority. They can provide enough votes, obviously, to put a Republican speaker
Brianna,
in
the
place.
Democrats provided 96% of the votes. 208 Democrats voted to remove the Republican Speaker of the House. 8 Republicans voted to remove the Republican Speaker of the House. So 96% of the votes came from Democrats to remove the Republican Speaker of the House.
I will say, I find it
the largest fundraiser that we've ever had. They knew what they were doing.
It's some interesting verbal gymnastics. I will give you that. But I want to talk about the future here.
What do you mean gymnastics? I'm just talking about the facts. 208 Democrats voted. There were the vast majority of the vote to take Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership.
Well, I'm talking about how it works. And that is that the majority in the House of Representatives, your party, is responsible for electing the speaker, not the Democrats.
We are.
Do you think, can I ask you this, do you think that there's going to be another vote today? Because we're uncertain on that.
I absolutely believe there will be another vote today. And, I don't know exactly what time that will be. But I'm not sure what I'm missing here with you, because 208 Democrats voted with 8 Republicans to take the largest Republican fundraiser out of the speakership. This was a pretty calculated decision by the Democrats. I get it. We had 8 Republicans.
Here's why, sir, because it was a Republican who filed the motion to vacate.
It was a Republican that had very, very personal differences with Kevin McCarthy.
All right, so Jordan lost 22 Republicans.
So, Rebecca, what he's saying is, damn it, they have too much unity. And we don't. So it's their fault. They're unified.
And these are the same people who are going from school board meeting to school board meeting, determining what curriculum is being taught to students. And they can't even do math, and he's also that guy, that particular guy, Congressman Scott, is going to get reelected again in Georgia. So there's a part of me that really wants Hakeem Jeffries to take out an ad in the Washington Post tomorrow and say, hey, look, this is the prisoner's dilemma. I got 5 slots for y'all. The first 5 Republicans who come over and decide that you're going to go ahead and coalesce with the Democratic caucus, we're not going to run anyone against you. Like right now, there's 18 Republicans who are in Biden districts. I do think there could be a deal that could be cut to actually make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House in this particular Congress. I'm not sure if Democrats actually want to help Republicans solve this issue, but I think it would be. And I don't think they should help Republicans solve this issue. But I will say I personally would rather a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries in this particular Congress than a Speaker fill in the box on the other side. So I do think that is something that could be on the table. I'm just not sure if strategically, if Democrats think it's a good idea. They might think that, hey, if we allow Republicans to continue to flounder, that guarantees that we get back the majority November 2024. And that is a deferred calculation. Or they could calculate now and figure out if it's worth actually getting that speakership in this Congress.
President Biden was on the plane, and he got asked this question here. I'm feeling what he had to say.
I mean, what? Do you have a view of Jim Jordan's current predicament and unable to secure the speakership? I ache for him. No. Zero. None. Mr. President? I mean, what?
He said, I ache for him. No, zero. Hell no, Joe. I ain't helping y'all with a damn thing. If I'm Hakeem Jeffries, I'm gonna sit over there and chill. I'm gonna let them introduce me again. I'm gonna keep getting my 212. I'm gonna let them fools over there look stupid every day.
You keep asking me these questions where I have to answer by quoting Bishop Bullwinkle. Hell to the no. And so basically what has to happen is, see, America needs to understand that when you have the folks in charge that you have, and folks that at least some of whom are okay with seeing the world burn, there's going to be consequences. Sometimes, I understand grace and mercy and everything else. But I remember there'd be times when, whether it's your mama or your minister, somebody would say, you know what? On some level, someone needs to feel the consequences of what it is that they're doing. And the American people need to see that these guys aren't on the same page, even as it comes to much of anything, to be honest with you. And the idea that Jim Jordan would be considered at all. This guy's been in Congress over a decade, has not passed one bill that he's proposed. Not nary, N-A-R-Y, not nary a one, not even one. And the Speaker of the House is supposed to run the Congress and move legislation. What would he possibly know about that? We would be shut down in no time. And so they need to feel the consequences of their action. I think Rebecca's scenario is a very interesting one, but I think what probably happens is Patrick McHenry gets some expanded powers and a deal with Democrats that guarantees that certain business gets brought up. I think that that's probably a little bit more likely. I like Hakeem for 2024. I mean, you let these cats do this another 2 or 3 weeks, and a lot of guys on the Republican side are going to be in trouble, at least enough to make a difference and turn it around. But it's absolutely not their responsibility to bail them out of the bad mistakes that they made. McCarthy wanted to be Speaker so bad, he made a deal with the devil to do it, which is fundamentally unstable. It should never be that one person with a personal grudge could bring a floor vote to have the Speaker removed. It should never happen, particularly with them knowing what's going on in their party. It's like the person that that goes and hangs out with the snake and lays with the snake and walks around with the snake, and they end up either getting suffocated or they get bit. And they go, wait, I treated you nice or whatever else. And the snake goes, but you knew you was a snake when you got with me, when you brought me in here. I don't belong here. If I'm a snake, somebody's a snake. Snakes do what snakes do. And so therefore, the Republicans have to lay in the bed that they made, and the Democrats have to stay on the same page. And hopefully something will get done to allow the business of the country to get done. But the Republicans' issues are on full display. And what's going on is true. It's not an anomaly. That's where we were going to be. And that's why we are here now.
Robert, here's how stupid these people are. These nutcases on the right literally have been threatening the spouses of Republicans, sending them threatening text messages, and then saying you're going to have challengers if you run again. Here is one of those Republicans speaking about that issue. Give me 1 second, pull this up. Because I thought this, first of all, again, this is dumb. You got no votes to spare, but you out here threatening people. You already got that fool Sean Hannity. His producer's been sending threatening emails, Robert. But here is Don Bacon talking about these threats.
And it backfires. You can win us over
some of the younger folks, maybe that kind of works, but someone like me, Steve Vollmack, Mario Diaz-Balart, you can win us over with an argument that makes sense. You're going to have to convince us, right? And threatening us does not work.
Not only threatening them, you sending threatening messages to their spouses? Nah. I think if Jim Jordan, I saw one report they may take another vote tomorrow, he gonna lose more votes.
Well, see, the issue is that Jim Jordan ain't got the juice like that. And nobody sits around saying, well, if I don't have Jim Jordan support, I can't get reelected in my district. I mean, he ain't got the juice like that to be threatening people. And so, of course, I'm going to take umbrage if somebody who comes threatening me when I know you ain't got it like that. Yes, we're going to have... If it was Nancy Pelosi who says to a freshman, look, if you don't support me, you're not getting reelected, she got the juice. So you know you have to get in line. He does not. But as much as I would love to be a political nihilist in this situation and watch Republicans burn themselves to the ground, the problem is we're on the same plane with them. So they go down, we go down also. We have a federal government that will close down in less than 30 days unless there's a continuing resolution or a budget deal. We're entering into the fall or into the winter of a before election year, meaning that whatever business of this country needs to get done by the week after Thanksgiving, or it ain't getting done. So that means everything from a continuing, from a omnibus spending bill that's going to have to get done. That means social services. That means setting up the budgeting for next year. So we have some actual adult things that need to get done, in addition to two wars going on internationally where the United States is supposed to be the hegemonic power of the world. So as much as it will be fun to watch Republicans emulate as much as possible, I think that coalition speaker has to happen. Jim Jordan is not going to be able to bring together the Republican Party, but I do think Hakeem Jeffries can find 5 swing state Republicans and carve out a governing coalition. You can get a governing coalition in the Senate. You can get a governing coalition in the House. Regardless of who the speaker is, you have to find a way to get things done, because otherwise it's one thing to watch their plane go down. It's another thing when you're on the same damn plane with them and not willing to go down with the ship because of them.
Ain't happening. Ain't 6 Republicans going to cross that aisle to vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Well, not necessarily to vote for Hakeem. Just to make the point clear, there's been some talk about Boehner, Liz Cheney, other individuals who could be a coalition speaker just to get the things going.
I'm going to tell you right now. Listen. Congressman Hakeem
Jeffries.
I
think there's a deal.
Hold 1 second. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries has been very strong in holding his caucus together. There is no way in hell all 212 Democrats will vote for Liz Cheney. Nope. Now, I know that's cute.
No, not her.
I know it's... No. What I'm saying is her name has been touted as a compromise speaker candidate. I'm telling you right now, 212 Democrats are not going to hold strong and let her ass become House Speaker. Just because...
Nor should they.
Just because she showed some strength when it came to January 6th. Nah, that ain't happening. Rebecca, go ahead.
I mean, Liz Cheney should not even be in contention. She is a Cheney, and her dad is her dad. We cannot have a Cheney as the Speaker of the House. That's just a no-go. I do think that there is a world where a deal could be cut. At this point, it just has to get to 217. I think the real possibility of those 18 Republicans, there's a very real possibility that at least half of them aren't going to come back unless they have some type of support. And so one thing that we've noticed out of this Republican caucus is that they crave power. That's the reason why McCarthy even got the position that he got. It's the reason why Matt Gaetz has been doing what he's been doing. It's the reason why we've seen Boebert or MTJ acting the way they've been acting, because it's craving pure power. So the idea of not returning back to Congress is enough for some people to go ahead and cut a deal. It's the reason why I'm calling it the prisoner's dilemma. Because if Hakeem Jeffries says, hey, look, the first 5 people who come to me and cut a deal, I will cut a deal with you. If you're number 6, you don't get a deal. You got to put some fire under them and let them know there is a deal. It's a limited time only, but you have to come to me. You have to come to me, in the next 12 hours. I do think there is a world in which that could happen. I don't know that happens, but I think
it don't. Ain't happening. I'm telling you right now. If you're the Democrat, I get this whole thing as, we got to do the people's bit. Listen, when people are shooting at each other, this is what you do. You duck. You go, y'all done? No, they ain't done. Then you wait to see how everybody got shot. That's what you do. You let everybody get shot, and then you like, all right, who got all taken out? That's how you respond. You don't get in the way of a gun battle. And these fools are picking each other off day by day.
But Roland, these folks ain't shooting at each other. Some point. Yeah, these people are wearing suicide vests, Roland. They're willing to blow the whole thing up. And me being
and yes, and you listen, and again.
Unfortunately, they take us out too.
No. See, again, when you say they got suicide vests, evacuate the area, crazy man with a bomb. Again, this is about power. You let them blow the joint up. You do that. It affects the House. It affects the Senate. It affects the presidency. Again, the smartest play of the Democrats so far has been to be strong with 212. Democrats typically the ones, okay, guys, we got to get along. We got to get along. We got to come to a compromise. We got to work something out. Man, no, let them fools sit here and kill each other.
At some point, so, Roland, if this can say 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, we're in the same place. What happens then? At some
guess
point,
what?
We're going to have a different returns to Democrats.
You don't wait.
So what is the power play for Democrats?
You don't short circuit it. If you gotta you gotta allow this thing to play out over 3 weeks, you let it. You sit back and go, okay, 2 weeks, okay, 1 week. Now it's crunch time. But I ain't getting in the way right now. I'm gonna let them fools take each other out. I'm going to allow insanity to be exposed. I'm going to allow them going on television, trashing each other. I'm going to allow them dogging each other out. I'm going to let that thing happen, and I'm going to sit here and say, we united, we united, we united. What y'all want to do?
This is almost like 2010 Tea Party. Remember remember the November 2010 election when you had the wave where you had a bunch of Tea Partiers who got elected, and many of them are no longer in the Congress. But the whole point of that Tea Party was to actually stop STEMI and to paralyze the Congress.
Yes.
So right now we're actually seeing the dreams of the Tea Party. We see Congress completely shut down.
Yes.
Nothing's happening. Is that actually good for democracy?
Yes. Okay, listen, guys. I know Democrats love abiding by that Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. Hell no. When they go low, you go lower. No, this is about the future of the country. And you let them people, you got folks walking around and talking about, well, look at the moderate Republicans. Ain't no moderate Republicans. They don't exist. You let the crazy be exposed. That's all you do. I ain't sitting here doing nothing. I'm going to let them fools go. And if it goes another week, if it goes 2 weeks, if it goes 3 weeks, now the onus is on them. Democrats can say, we ready, 212 on our side, 5 of y'all come over, we got a speaker. Y'all can't get y'all act together. So guess what? Who's going to get blamed for the government shutting down? The fools who couldn't elect the speaker, the fools who couldn't get along, Matt Gaetz who got rid of McCarthy, then they couldn't elect Scalise, then they couldn't elect Scott, and they couldn't elect Jim Jordan. What they want to do? Man, don't get in the way of somebody losing the game. You don't get in the way.
But extreme Republicans have a lot of support from their. Right? So a lot of the extreme Republicans have tremendous support from their primary Republican voters who are willing to back this. So I don't think we're going to see folks in Scott's district who's going to connect and say, oh, well, I'm not getting my particular benefits because of Scott. That's not going to happen.
Listen,
I think
there are 18,
even McCarthy's district.
There are 18 Republicans who won in districts that Biden won. You do nothing because they are going to feel the pressure. That's why you don't do nothing. Real quick, Joe, before I go to break, real quick.
That's why I think somebody from that space comes to the Democrats and a deal gets done related to McHenry. That's what I think is the most likely scenario, because they're going to need, we all need to do something, but they're going to be the ones that are going to feel the pressure of not being in Congress anymore. And I think, look for that to happen. It's unprecedented in a way. It's been a while, but, desperate times calls for desperate actions.
Listen, I'm telling y'all right now, if any of these Republicans was sitting here trying to reach Democrats, trying to get them to bail them out, man, you don't do nothing. You let crazy be crazy. In fact, if they they even called me, all I do is be sitting here like, we ain't even gonna have this conversation. I'm gonna let y'all just go ahead and be nuts. And then, matter of fact, if I'm the Democrats, just go ahead and put this on. Drive me crazy. I gotta go to a break. We'll be right back. Roll the button on the filter, the Black Star Network.
That's so funny.
Peace, I'm Faraji Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the black man in our community. Whether it's in politics, education, or in the home, my brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online Culture crew member for the Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach and host of Get Wealthy. Let me hit you with a few numbers. African Americans spend 9 times the amount on ethnic beauty products and yet only own 1% of the beauty supply stores. It's an $18 billion industry. On the next Get Wealthy, you're going to learn and hear from a woman who's turning this obstacle into an opportunity.
We literally take you from A to Z on all of the things step by step you need to have in place to open and run a very successful beauty supply store.
That's right here with me, Deborah Owens, host of Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
President Joe Biden, folks, went into a war zone today, went to Israel to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He was supposed to, of course, be having a summit in Jordan, but because of the hospital strike that where folks were killed, that summit with the head of Jordan, the head of the PLO, was actually canceled. Now, Biden warned those factions about attacking and promised to ask Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense later this week. Here's some of his remarks.
The state of Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people of the world. That's why it was born. I've long said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. While it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. And I promise you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it will be. 75 years ago, just 11 minutes after its founding, President Harry S. Truman and the United States of America became the first nation to recognize Israel. We've stood by your side ever since. We're going to stand by your side now. My administration was in close touch with your leadership from the first moments of this attack. We're going to make sure we have what you need to protect your people, to defend your nation. For decades, we've ensured Israel's qualitative military edge. And later this week, I'm going to ask the United States Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense. We're going to keep Iron Dome fully supplied.
McManus, Allison is the Senior Director of National Security and International Policy for the Center for American Progress. Allison, glad to have you here. Allison, here's one of the things that's real interesting here. There were a number of Jewish protesters today in the Cannon building. They were in front of the White House yesterday. Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday was asked about this by a college student with regards to the occupation of Gaza. A lot of young folks on college campuses have been very critical of Israel. President Biden has to walk a serious tightrope here, proclaiming support for Israel, but he's also risking a lot of folks here at home who have a differing view of the occupation. Thoughts?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me tonight, Roland. I wish I could say that it's a pleasure to be on the show, but, I do think I have to acknowledge the reason, obviously, that we're having this conversation is because there's been a great deal of human suffering and suffering that continues. It's funny that you mentioned the tightrope. I actually had drafted, some notes and thoughts, before coming on tonight, and tightrope is in my notes in terms of what Biden and the administration need to walk in both expressing support for Israel's right to defense, but also, ensuring that we don't see unnecessary escalation, because I know that for the Biden administration, this escalation could be, it's a real concern thinking about spillover. The point that you raise also in terms of, the concerns maybe that the American public has about the situation. I mean, we've really seen polarization, I think, in terms of the public sentiment, but also a lot of moderate voices that I think are acknowledging the fact that this was a really brutal terrorist attack, that Hamas is a threat and remains a threat right now to the security of Israelis, and that's something that Israelis feel. But also, that there's a way to bring perpetrators of these attacks to justice that doesn't have to mean collective punishment. It doesn't have to mean the displacement of millions of Palestinians. It doesn't have to mean attacks on civilians. It doesn't have to mean civilian casualties. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that there is a way to, maybe not think about this as a tightrope, but actually think about this as a moral and strategic imperative that, the U.S. really pushes Israel and encourages Israel to respond in a way and to defend itself in a way that is in keeping with international humanitarian law, that minimizes civilian casualties, that avoids collective punishment. Again, that this is not just, the right thing to do because Palestinians are not Hamas, but also that, if Israel really does want to bring home hostages, want to prevent the spread of the conflict, and want to prevent, a cycle of violence, that's really pragmatically what's necessary as well.
I have been just again watching so much here. I mean, you've got Penn, Harvard, Columbia. You've got donors saying they're going to be holding their money, pulling their money because the university is not responding appropriately. You got people who are saying we're not going to be hiring any of those students who signed those letters. Now you've got people people are, I mean, like, look, these people were trying to people were blasting Alicia Keys because she answered the question about paragliding, and then trying to say, oh, she's wearing the Hamas colors. I mean, you literally have these battle lines that are being drawn, and now you have President Biden there talking about an unprecedented aid package. You already got a bunch of people who are angry with the billions that we've sent to Ukraine. If this Congress approves sending 10, 20, 30 billion, whatever, to Israel, you're going to have you're going to have people who are saying absolutely that's the right position, others saying that's absolutely the wrong position, and so I mean, 2023 is not 2003 in terms of the worldview and how people are responding to this attack and this war that we're now looking at.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that. I think we have seen absolutely a shift in sentiment. I think that there's a growing awareness and really, you know, as we've seen over the past 10 years and particularly under the government of Benjamin Netanyahu, you know, a real escalation in, you know, the building of settlements in the West Bank. We've seen escalations in violence. I mean, even before these, the Hamas attacks and, you know, the Israeli bombardments and the counteroffensive, 2023 was already the deadliest year in terms of tensions between Palestinians and Israelis. And so I think that there's an understanding, as you said, certainly in the international community, you know, when it comes to the rulings, the international legal rulings on this, there's an understanding that the status quo in terms of how, you know, between Israel and Gaza, or excuse me, Israel and Palestine, the status quo of occupation, you know, of settlements, et cetera, that this was not going to hold. And, you know, really tragically, you know, I think that we are seeing that now. I guess the question that we, you know, need to kind of, you know, we'll be looking at is what does that mean practically in terms of policy, whether that's the administration's policy or whether that's, you know, how Congress appropriates. And obviously, you know, that status quo changed, but also changed in a way that's been extremely bloody and brutal and traumatic. And so we see that there's been a response, and I think the right response, which is to express solidarity with Israel and with Israelis, you know, as they are continuing to mourn the dead that were, you know, we all saw, you know, really horrific images, really, you know, horrific developments that happened there. The question then is, you know, what does that solidarity mean materially, which is, I think, you know, what you're getting at. What does that mean actually in terms of a defense package? Israel is already the #1 recipient of U.S. security assistance. Israel already has one of the most capable militaries, security architectures in the world. And unfortunately, still was not able to defend against this attack from Hamas. So I really do think that it raises the question about what does, you know, support look like now. We know that the number I think that's being thrown out right now is as high as $100 billion in terms of the aid request that the Biden administration would be making to Congress. Not necessarily all for aid to Israel, but overall. Congress is going to need to consider that. And I think that the sentiments in Congress are, again, support for Israel's right to defense, and understanding that, again, perpetrators need to be brought to justice. But if that budget request includes offensive weapons, I think it's going to be much, much harder for Congress to look at a military aid package that would have any kind of, offensive weapons and to pass that. So, and of course, that's leaving aside like a whole other set of questions around, what legislation Congress is going to be able to pass. And I know you just had the segment about the, let's call it the mess that's happening in the House. So I think a lot of questions really about, materially, what is this support going to, what is this going to look like? And I think we'll find out a bit more on that over the next weeks. But as you rightfully noted, I don't see this as being a blank check to Israel. I think, what we're seeing from the administration and from Congress is an expression of solidarity, an expression of support. But really, we'll find out what that means materially in the next weeks.
Question from the panel. Rebecca, you first.
Yes, thank you so much for being here tonight. In President Biden's remarks earlier, he also mentioned that a part of the package that the United States will potentially send over will include humanitarian aid towards the Palestinians. It's my understanding in the past that previous humanitarian packages for Palestinians didn't go directly to the Palestinians, but actually went to the Israeli government that in turn provided food, water, and electricity to the Palestinians. What happens to Palestinian aid now considering the current set of events?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think the humanitarian aid, the package, there's still a lot of questions around how this is going to be structured and delivered. We do know that there's been a new special envoy who's been appointed specifically to deal with issues of humanitarian assistance. That's David Satterfield. So obviously this is something that the administration is thinking about in a more robust way. If we look at Biden's trip to Israel, and as Roland mentioned, was supposed to also include a stop to Jordan, which didn't happen. Humanitarian assistance was one of the main priorities on that trip. I was really encouraged to see that some humanitarian assistance is now going to be let in through Egypt. And Egypt has, been sort of positioned to send some of that aid into Gaza. Of course, when Blinken went to Egypt and met with President Sisi, he was unsuccessful in having a more robust humanitarian assistance deal that would also, consider the question of what happens to the many, many refugees and those who have been forcibly displaced by this conflict, because there are a lot of questions about who would house these refugees, and a lot of assistance that's going to be needed to mobilize those who are not just in Gaza, but end up outside of Gaza as well. So you're raising good questions. I don't know what the answers are now. I do know that, the $100 million so far that Biden has said it will be mobilized, that's going to need to go up. I mean, there's going to just need to be a lot more humanitarian aid mobilized in Gaza, outside of Gaza as well.
Joe?
At the risk of, thank you for everything that you're doing. At the risk of asking an incredibly broad question, I'll qualify it. I'm going to ask you where we go from here. But we're looking at the playing field, and I see a lot of things. Among other things, I see this situation where Israel has become more politically unstable that, perhaps contributed to this situation happening in the back door. The prime minister was worrying about some different things, including quelling dissension related to the Supreme Court and some of the things that he was doing. I also see some potential lessons even for our country as it pertains to political instability. But what should be, here's a better question, what should be our focus for those of us that are concerned about not only protecting Israel, but preventing the dehumanization of the Palestinian people, innocent people who just want to live in their homes and to live their lives? Where should our focus be?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think we have to consider different horizons of urgency right now. I mean, the first horizon of urgency is really, containing this conflict and not seeing any more escalation. And when we look again at that kind of tightrope that the administration's been walking, it's been, Biden mentioned, and alluded to restraint on this trip, but we haven't necessarily seen calls for de-escalation. And I think, again, looking at this attack, and I know that there's still inconclusive evidence about the provenance of the attack on the hospital, but, the overwhelming response to that attack that's been seen across the Arab world, but really across the entire world. Really keeping an eye on the very serious escalations. That's been a bit slower, but quite fragile situation with Hezbollah, and the sort of unknowns around what Iran's role may be in this conflict. So really, we are still looking at an extremely tenuous conflict situation that could continue to erupt with really disastrous consequences for the region. So I would say that's the first, horizon of urgency, is just making sure and seeing that the U.S. is doing everything that it can with Israel to, really make appeals for ensuring that this conflict does not continue to escalate and spill over. The second, I would say, equally urgent situation is the humanitarian situation. We're talking over a million Palestinians who have been displaced, some that needed to pick up and move with immediate notice. People have nowhere to go. There's been access to water is a huge concern. Access to medical supplies is a huge concern. Access to food. Bombardments have now killed, the latest that I had seen from UN, over 4,200 Palestinians, children, journalists, aid workers, UN staff. Thousands, more are feared dead because of the situation in which the bombardments are occurring. People are stuck under rubble. Really, we are looking at an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe. And the first urgent situation in terms of escalation is not unrelated to the second urgent situation in terms of the humanitarian situation. So those, I think, are the two immediate priorities. And then, you're raising, again, good questions about then what's next. We don't know, where this conflict is going to end at this point. But we do know that there is going to, at some point, we will need to start grappling with the questions of what happens next. And I think where where this conflict leaves the Israeli government, obviously there's a lot of frustration with Netanyahu and how Netanyahu handled, the context that led up to this, and calls that had been made that, again, the status quo wasn't going to hold, that there should be concerns about, potential eruption. So a lot of frustrations with Netanyahu. Obviously, there's a unity government right now, but what this is going to mean for his position and what this means for the Israeli government moving forward, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I know that there's going to be some fundamental changes there, and there's going to have to be some real reckoning also with, what's the status quo of the situation for Palestinians. I think here there's an opportunity again for the U.S. to push for a recognition that the continued settlement expansion in the West Bank and in Jerusalem is creating really serious problems. That we've seen that international law is clear about where some of these lines are. The situation in terms of the simple human rights, access to opportunity, access to economic opportunity for Palestinians has really been neglected for far too long. But then there's a whole other set of questions about what sort of who's going to be the authority, who can speak and political authority, I'm saying, who'll be able to speak and negotiate on behalf of Palestinians. And that's a really open question as well. And then I also think, just since we've sort of alluded to it, but the polarization, and I don't even think polarization quite captures it. I think really the violent rhetoric that we've seen, around this conflict. I'm not even going to say on both sides, because I just think it's been kind of all around. We've already seen that has been reflected in hate crimes. A 6-year-old boy was killed in the environs of Chicago simply because he was Palestinian, and his landlord had been radicalized by hearing the dehumanizing language, I think, that you're referring to. And I also think that's sort of a a legacy, and there's that we're going to have to grapple with as well. And so that's also a huge concern.
All right, Allison McManus, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks a bunch. We'll, as you say, we'll have to see how this all unfolds.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, got to go to break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, y'all. We should easily be above 1,000. It should be close to 2,000 likes. Also, your support for us is critical, your financial support. And so I went to the mailbox today, stuffed with checks and mail order, and of course, cashier's checks. People were sending all sort of stuff, and so we appreciate that. We still are about 275,000 behind our goal, folks. And so you can see your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure, of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And you can watch our 24-hour streaming channel now on 4 different fast channels. You can check us out on Amazon News. Simply go to Amazon Fire, go to Amazon News, or tell Alexa play news on the Black Star Network. Plex TV, you can catch us there as well. And of course, now on Amazon Freevee and Amazon Prime Video. Go to Live TV, click on that. You'll see our Black Star Network news channel right alongside all the other major news networks. And don't forget to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available bookstores nationwide. Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop, Chapters, Books A Million, Target, and of course, for those of you who have issues you don't want to read, you can always, of course, get the always get the audio version. Yes, I read the audio version. It's on Audible, so please check that out. And speaking of that, Friday, folks, Friday we're going to be in Atlanta. There's the gospel concert taking place on Friday. Guys, no, that's not it. No, the gospel concert, McDonald's gospel concert. If y'all could pull that up, please, on Friday. If y'all have that. If not, nope, that's not it right there, y'all. It's the gospel. All right, so the gospel concert taking place on Friday. New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. Of course, the McDonald's Inspiration Gospel Tour. But on Sunday, I'm going to be back at New Birth for a book signing for my book, White Fear, with Pastor Jamal Bryant. Y'all go to it now on my iPad. Let's go to it. On my iPad. There you go. All right. So I'm going to be at New Birth on Sunday. Signing copies of my book, White Fear. So look forward to being there. 9:30 a.m. Sunday, New Birth. So again, Friday, the gospel concert with McDonald's. Sunday, the book signing there. It is homecoming weekend for Clark Atlanta, and looking forward to be a part of the festivities. I'll be right back.
On A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. Being of service to others is one of the greatest callings in life. But being there for someone else in their time of crisis is a whole new level, and you have to bring courage, commitment, and strength. On our next show, we meet 2 real-life angels who were thrust in the midst of caregiving and without warning.
And he was looking strange and couldn't cut his meat. And it was very odd. And I said, well, what's wrong? And he says, I think I've had a stroke. And so, of course, it scared me. And we literally got in the car and he walked into the hospital on a Thursday. And by Saturday of that same week, he lost all control of his left side.
The blessings, the challenges, and the way they maintain their balance, all next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, the governor of North Carolina and voting rights groups are suing Republicans over their continued voter suppression. Governor Roy Cooper filed a lawsuit over a measure that eliminates his authority to pick election board members, while voting rights groups filed another lawsuit challenging the law's provisions that discourage young people from voting. Cooper said the board changes, which will take effect January 1st, do not align with the state constitution and state Supreme Court rulings of the 2010s that give the governor control over executive agencies to carry out law. State voters also rejected a 2018 referendum giving lawmakers more say over the election board's composition. Republican-controlled General Assembly overrode Cooper's vetoes on both bills last week. Republicans say the Elections Board law will create bipartisan consensus on election administration, but Cooper calls it a power grab by the GOP. And Rebecca, that's the real deal. We're seeing this all around the country, where Republicans pissed off, where they don't control everything. So what they are now doing is they are now changing the laws. We see this happening in North Carolina. With North Carolina, we see this happening in Wisconsin. We see this happening all the places where you have Democratic governors, and then you have Republicans that control the legislature.
Yeah, like back in the spring, there's a GOP attorney, I believe her name is Cleta Mitchell. She announced to a room full of GOP donors, like, hey, our playbook for 2024 is to reduce the number of college students who are voting, narrow down the window of early in-person voting, try to decrease vote by mail, and make it harder for people to get registered to vote. She literally laid out to Republican donors, this is our strategy to win in 2024. And so what we're seeing Cleta Mitchell's advice being taken by Republican lawmakers all across the country. And
the thing here, Joe, I mean, I keep making this point. to our people all the time, I mean, guess what happens when we don't vote? Then they get these supermajorities, and they can do whatever they want. And so it's one thing voting for the governor's race, but you got to vote for state rep and state senate as well, and state Supreme Court.
Absolutely, you got to vote all the way up and all the way down the line. The Republican tagline seems to be, well, if you don't win elections, take the power away of the person that did. And so ever since Jim Cooper won, Governor Cooper won in North Carolina, they've been trying to strip away powers all day long, and they've constantly done it in many ways. And, in most textbooks, they'll say that the legislative branch passes laws and the executive branch actually carries them out. And so, therefore, here they are in a situation where they're basically trying to take away more of the executive's power in terms of what the executive is actually supposed to do. It's not an argument about an honest debate about ideas anymore. I just think that the other side, the Republicans, the ones that are standing in the front at least, understand that they're outnumbered and/or that their ideas are unpopular to a large extent. And so therefore you want to narrow the number of people voting, get rid of as many young voters, get rid of as many voters of color as you possibly can, and take the power away of those that unfortunately slip through and get elected by people when people are concerned enough to go vote. And so this is something that we have to pay attention to and be vigilant about all over the place because it's happening all over the place.
Robert, it's unbelievable what they do. Again, stripping the governor of powers. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, same things, just complaining just the other day. Them doing the exact same thing. They fired 7 of his appointees because their deal is we can.
Absolutely. And look, we're talking about this as if this is a new concept. We've been saying the civil rights community, this is what Republicans have wanted to do for the last 25 years. And they've been working on this through redistricting in 2010, through redistricting in 2020 to try to take over these state and local races. We talked about the fact that from the time Obama was elected till he left office, Democrats lost something like 1,044 seats nationwide. Democrats have to understand you have to win these state and local seats. One thing that you can say about President Trump is if you are running for dog catcher and you are on the MAGA agenda, he will bring the entire monster truck rally down to your small town. He'll come down to Dalton, Georgia, bring you on stage, put you knock on doors where you contribute money. We have to start campaigning in these state and local races because these folks don't give a damn about democracy. They care about power, the maintenance of it, and the extension of it. And because of that, the entire conceptualization of a pluralistic Republican democracy is now in question because we have seen over and over again that if Republicans don't win a race, they will simply change the rules to make sure they win next time. And to Rebecca's point, Vivek Ramaswamy is now explicitly running on a platform of voter suppression. He is saying, I want to amend the Constitution to raise the voting age to 25 years of age. I want to get rid of all early voting and have only day of election paper ballots for all elections. He wants to get rid of the Department of Justice's oversight on all federal elections. They are now saying the quiet part, not just out loud, they are making their campaign strategy. Their new strategy is directly on this conceptualization of mainstreaming voter suppression so they can maintain political power despite not having the same sorts of demographic advantages they've had in the past. And we can either sit here and wait around and then find out once they're done what they're doing, or we can start fighting back right now. There has to be a bigger investment on the ground on state and local races all across the country, red states and blue states alike, because if you look across the South, if you look across the demographics, there's no reason there should be a constitutional majority for Republicans in the Georgia House of Representatives based on the population. Same thing for South Carolina, same thing for Mississippi, same thing for Alabama. And we vote our numbers, we take power. We are not putting the money in and the organizational strength in to bring those elections along. It's not all about just electing a president or United States senators. You have to elect the entire team if you want to build that farm system and get things done. And that's where the focus has to be on for 2024.
Well, and what I keep saying, Rebecca, is, folks, I'm tired of you complaining after the fact. I mean, I don't want to hear complaints when the election is over. I don't want to hear you complaining about, look at the bills that they're passing. All these folks in Florida complaining about Ron DeSantis. How many of them didn't vote in 2018?
You know, absolutely, because we know in 2018 in Florida, that race was decided by less than 33,000 votes. Less than 33,000 votes, and DeSantis would never become governor of the state of Florida. So here's the thing. You just mentioned, what can we do? Well, this is what we know. November 7th, we have an election in Ohio. There's two ballot issues. One is on the recreational use of marijuana. That's issue number 2. And issue number 1 is about reproductive health. It's about access to fertility treatments as well, and also access to birth control. We know in Pennsylvania, we have a set of elections that's coming up that's dealing with making it's 2 Supreme Court judge races that's on the ballot. In Virginia, the entire assembly, in both the delegate side and the Senate side, is up for election. So there are things to vote for. Or even in Harris County, there's a mayor's race that's coming up, as well as some local elections. So there are things that people can do now. And just like what Robert just said, we have to show up and vote our numbers, because the bottom line, the math is the math. Even with redistricting, even with other forms of gerrymandering, even with culling voters, removing them off of removing them off of the voter rolls. If those of us who are registered to vote actually show up to vote, we actually bring positive change. And that's something that simply no one can take away from us.
I want to talk about something else, y'all, that I find to be quite interesting. And that is, now all of a sudden you've got football players, college players who can make money through name, image, and likeness, which they should. So here's what's interesting. There was a congressional committee today. They were talking about a name, image, and likeness bill, and it came up in the Senate. And here's what's interesting here. So Maria Cantwell, who is the chair of this committee, this is what was said. This is from a USA Today article. But I want y'all to check this out. It said Maria Cantwell said the committee came close to agreement on a bill in the last congressional session that was more narrowly tailored just to NIL, but included elements of proposals from Senators Roger Wicker, Republican Mississippi, who had been the committee's chair, and from Richard Blumenthal, Democrat Connecticut, and Cory Booker, Democrat New Jersey, who have been and remain strong advocates of legislation that would address a range of issues beyond NIL, including athlete health, safety, and welfare. But this is interesting. However, she said the problem was, at that point, a lot of people wanted to jettison the HBCUs from Division I, and we didn't think that was such a good idea. And we weren't for that for a bunch of different reasons, and so the negotiations fell apart over that issue. I find that to be interesting that they wanted to jettison HBCUs from Division I. I wonder, Robert, if that came up because Deion Sanders was at Jackson State and signed the #1 recruit in the country, Travis Hunter.
As the prophet Mos Def once said, you start keeping pace, they start switching up the tempo. And that's what we're seeing, that in this case, now there's been a blueprint put in place, and we're seeing people like Eddie George follow that blueprint and revolutionize in his own way. We're seeing Hugh Jackson do the same thing at Jackson State. Now that we're seeing that once you take away Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney's ability to basically pay players and pay an NFL team to come to Alabama or to come to Clemson, etc. Now there's an even playing field. A lot of these coaches are getting exposed. And what we know is that once black players start going to black schools and institutions, and you start making Alabama depend on only having Tyler and Tucker and Jimbo play for them, they won't be able to compete anymore. So they are now taking preemptive legislative action to make sure that never happens. These state schools will be out of business in a couple weeks, in a couple months, if black players start going to HBCUs and they know they have to do something to keep these institutions alive, to keep that money rolling in for boosters and keep that money rolling in for the state, because what we have seen for generations are these coaches show up under the guise of recruiting. They buy mama a truck, they buy dad a couple suits, they put a couple $100,000 in a player's pocket, and then they basically have bought their services at university. Well, now I can make the millions I'm actually owed through NIL, so I don't need to get your little stinky booster money. I can actually support my family based on the work that I do and the work that I put in. That scares the hell out of them. Black economic independence is the scariest thing to the establishment of white America.
You know, the thing that I find to be interesting about all of these folks, Joe, is, well, we got to have some legislation, because what they don't like is you got the fact that you take an Angel Reese. Angel Reese just signed with Reebok, okay? Shaq was named the head of basketball at Reebok, so one of the first people he signed was Angel Reese. And then I saw a story where the Caleb Williams, a quarterback at USC, can make more money through NIL deals next year than he could make. And this is crazy. And I think it is crazy. And that should apply to these fools. Because what they're doing is they're screwing black players. They're pissed. They're now pissed because they're making millions. Caleb Williams can make more money at USC next year than he could as a rookie in the NFL. And so now all of a sudden, this is not right. This is not fair. Now, mind you, Joe, the head of the NCAA was making $2 million. He ain't bounced one ball. He ain't thrown no ball, making $2 million. You now have head coaches making, $9 and $10 million. The head coach at Texas A&M, he ain't won shit. Jimbo Fisher, making $9.5 million. He ain't won nothing. Dabo Sweeney at Clemson complaining about name, image, and likeness. But he making almost $10 million. Nick Saban, you got Harbaugh at Michigan. All these cats, they are making crazy amounts of money, but now all of a sudden, we got to regulate this. We got to regulate this. These players, what's going on out here? It's called, here's what I love. I thought Republicans love the free market. We love the free market till them black ball players start getting paid.
That's right, and everybody loves a winner. And I forget what school it is. If it's Florida, it's one of the schools in the South. They are planning to build a new stadium. That is in their financial plan. And so basically, you are relying on kids right now that are somewhere between probably the 6th and the 10th grade to build you a $100 million stadium with their talent. And so anything that has the potential to dilute that or to take that in another direction is something that they're going to be against. And of course, Deion has shown the way and reminded. And, we've had good black players at HBCUs and for a long time, but good programs that can compete and do the things that they need to do and recruit strong teams, not just one good person or two good people or whatever else. That's a little bit different. And so folks like Saban and Sweeney and Fisher, many of whom just get recycled, in and out of different places in football. Sarkisian, who's a good coach, but still, perspective is in order on all of this. Once NIL happened and folks could have their hustle be what they needed it to be, now they wanted to look at it differently because it has the potential to affect them negatively. So here we are again. We like the free market until it's benefiting folks other than us. We like this particular law or how this particular place is set up or how this particular district is set up until the numbers get so where we're outnumbered and we're going to lose. And so it's all about changing the game. And this is another example of changing the game. It's amazing that it takes someone as amazing as Deion Sanders. It takes these folks that are excellent and that are extraordinary to flip the script because of everything that we're going against and we're fighting against. But hopefully we continue to be aware of what's going on, watching it as it's going on, and making sure that we take our stands. And so that these kids have choices of where to go to school. They don't necessarily have to go to Alabama. If they want to go to Alabama, God bless them. But if they want to go to Jackson State, that's fine too. Except the guys at Alabama don't necessarily like like that.
But here's why I think this is so hilarious, Rebecca. So I'm sitting here looking at this story here, and now they're talking about, oh, this is unfair. We got to do something because we just can't have a few conferences getting all the money. Guess what? TV is driving this. It's TV. TV money is driving the power conferences. The Pac-12 blew up because USC and UCLA left the Pac-12 because over a TV deal. Okay, then they were like, we don't want the rest of the Pac-12. Why do they change? Why couldn't they get a real TV deal? Because LA, USC and UCLA are both in Los Angeles. And the rest of them schools, they in know-nothing markets. I'm just being honest, and it's all TV deal. So there are Power 5 conferences. It's not going to be a Power 4. It's probably going to get to the point where you're only going to have 2 conferences, where you're going to have maybe the top 30 teams competing and then making all the money. And so Congress can sit here and do what they want to do, but this is a TV money game, boo. That's all this is. And college football ain't nothing but a minor league NFL.
You know, the college football game changed in the 90s. I remember when Notre Dame had signed, what was it, $100 million contract with NBC to televise all their games. It was a game changer. Like, it really exploded college football because everyone was like, oh, you can do that. And so even now, even if Congress decided they wanted to interfere and kick HBCUs out of Division I, even Division I has changed. I mean, you now have the FBS versus the FCS. For your viewers, the football bowl subdivision, which is the highest level in NCAA, and then the FCS, the football championship subdivision, which is like kind of the number 2, like prior to 2006.
Their old school is Division I, Division II.
But the point, like you said, is about money, right? And the thing, and bring this back to NIL and with the different student athletes, is that we've seen that social media has been an equalizer. Because before, you wanted to go to one of the power schools because you needed exposure, especially if you wanted to make money, i.e. go to the NFL, go to the NBA, go to some of the other professional leagues. But no longer, you no longer have to go to those power schools in order to get exposure. You could go on social media, you could go on your Insta, you could go on your TikTok, and you could actually show clips of you playing. But not only that, you can actually make money now instead of having to risk injury through your college career and risk injury. You can make money now, and there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, where I thought you were going to go with NILs, especially with tying this to 2024 and elections, is that we even saw in the Wisconsin Supreme Court special race in the spring. My organization, as an example, we use micro-influencers on campus to push out for students to know, hey, there's an election coming, check your voter registration, make sure you turn out to vote, and these are the issues that are on the ballot that you can use your voice with. We actually have worked with student athletes to use them as micro-influencers on their particular campus to make sure we're getting the word out. I thought where you were going, where the Senate was going, was trying to restrict what NILs could be used for.
No, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, what the schools don't like, the smaller schools don't like that the bigger schools are able to offer more money to the players in bigger NIL deals. Well, hell, that was always the case when the boosters were giving money under the table. So that was always the deal. But you know what's interesting, and I'm gonna try to pull it up in 1 second, what we're seeing today was actually what Eddie Robinson actually broke down when he testified before Congress in 1984. He talked about then what was going to happen. And what people don't remember, that there was a Supreme Court ruling where the NCAA could not, and Grant Taft, who was head of the Coaches Football Association, they sued, and that gave, so the NCAA used to control TV contracts. Well, then when they won that lawsuit, then the schools could cut their own deals. That's when the game changed. And so now, and here's the whole deal. When you're watching television, you don't care about some podunk school watching. You want to see the big boys compete. You want to see the Alabamas, the USCs of the world compete, and it's all about eyeballs, about ratings. But here's what Eddie Robinson actually said, testifying before Congress about this very issue.
Revenue from television has been the lifeblood for Division I, IIA leagues like our conference. Naturally, the loss of these revenues will have a devastating effect. It will force curtailment of a number of programs and create funding problems for federal compliance with things like Title IX. We have to deal with declining student enrollment and reduce public funding on college revenues. We will not have an opportunity to get the good public relation that is typical of a regional television game or the national television game. So it stands that we are naturally locked out. In our conference, things like basketball tournament for men and women, golf and baseball playoff, tennis and track championships, all been funded by television revenue, and we face serious setbacks. Indeed, monies received from television since 1977 in our league has enabled the Southwestern Athletic Conference, our conference, to wipe out a deficit of $100,000 operating debt and build a league surplus of over $500,000 and operate at the level of other conferences our side. Television has been our lifeblood. It has been a public relation catalyst, enabling us to showcase our program. It's been a boom for recruiting. You have to understand, we are locked out with seemingly no place to turn. Gentlemen, I hope that the members of this committee will give every consideration to our problem and offer constructive solutions. I feel now that after these years and the great contribution that this organization has made to intercollegiate athletics, that the tail is about to wag the dog. It is television now. It will be recruiting tomorrow. It will be academic standards after that. Then it will be buying athletes next until the whole college athletic structure tumbles down. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to appear before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Robinson. Mr. Ninus?
Sounds like that alpha man was speaking some truth there, and everything that he talked about has literally happened. It's happened, and so we're going to continue to see it happen. Going to a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
All change is not growth.
Right.
But thoughtful change is real good fertilizer. And that's what has been so beneficial to us.
But you also were not afraid of the pivot.
Well, and I'm a black woman in business. Come on, I don't care how I dress up. I don't care who I'm speaking with. I don't care what part of the world I am in. I still am a black woman in business. Being afraid of the pivot, being fearful of change is not what got me here. Respectful of change. Respectful of pivot, yeah. Fearful? No, no.
Peace, I'm Faraji Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the black man in our community. Whether it's in politics, education, or in the home, my brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Farquhar, executive producer, Proud Family. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, a former Kansas City police officer who killed the Kansas City police officer detective who killed a black man has turned himself in to begin his 6-year prison sentence. The Missouri Court of Appeals for the Western District upheld Eric DeValkenier's second-degree involuntary manslaughter conviction for killing Cameron Lamb. The 3-judge panel found sufficient evidence that DeValkenier killed Lamb, that he acted with criminal negligence, that he was not justified to use deadly force, and that he illegally entered Lamb's backyard on December 3rd, 2019. DeValkenier was sentenced to 6 years in prison, 3 for the manslaughter charge, and 6 years for armed criminal action to be served concurrently. He had been free pending his appeal. DeValkenier's lawyer asked the appeals court judges to reinstate his bond so he can remain free pending request for rehearing or an appeal to the Missouri Supreme Court. Keep in mind, Joe, that the governor actually talked about how he was possibly going to pardon him for this. That sparked a lot of outrage. They were like, how dare you do this when this was a decision by the courts?
Yeah, and it looks like the Attorney General's office is actually supporting him as well. And so he's got folks all the way up the line that are trying to keep him on the street, that are thinking about reversing his conviction should it be done. But in the meantime, unless and until all of that happens, he should be in jail. He was let out on bond. He could stay out on bond pending the appeal, but the appeal has come back and it's been denied. So in other words, it's time for him to go to jail. Unless until something else happens, and we can cross that bridge when we come to it, he should be serving his sentence. So it is very interesting that the folks all the way up the line seem to be okay with him not being accountable. But he has a prison sentence to serve. It looks like the right thing that was convicted. In any event, there hasn't been enough of an appeal or successful appeal where there has been some kind of, abuse of discretion or whatever else, so that anything has been overturned. And so, therefore, he should be serving his sentence.
Indeed. All right, folks. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, they're investigating possible civil rights violations by the Trenton, New Jersey Police Department. The DOJ probe focuses on allegations that officers have used excessive force, stopped people without justification, and illegally searched homes and cars. Trenton's Democratic Mayor Reed Guscoria, Police Director Steve Wilson, and the head of the city's legal department say they will cooperate with federal authorities. The union representing police said the department in the city of about 90,000 people has been plagued with persistent staffing shortages since 2011. Budget cuts forced the layoff 105 officers, nearly a third of the force. The union said police responded to 41 shooting incidents over the past 30 days and have consistently demonstrated commitment, always doing more with less. If the federal probe determines the police department has broken federal law, the DOJ can sue to force changes. Last year, the department's Internal Affairs Unit investigated 128 complaints. Only 14 were sustained. Look, I get the union complaining, Robert, but I'm sorry, staffing shortages does not explain away police brutality.
Not at all. And I want for the people online who always say, well, why do we need to vote? Blah, there's no difference between Trump and Biden, et cetera. Waka Flocka Flame, Sexy Red, Yo Jets, or Yo, what's her name, who are then other folks out there. Understand that having a functional Department of Justice and a functional Civil Rights Division makes real changes to policies that affect real people on a daily basis. When Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General, he used the Civil Rights Division to investigate discrimination against white people. When Bill Barr was in there, they used it. They were not enforcing consent decrees. They were not investigating hate crimes against African Americans. Having a functional Civil Rights Division, the Department of Justice, is reason enough for you to get out there and vote. So I understand that there are many Gen Z social media influencers who are saying, well, Donald Trump gave you a free check. Donald Trump gave you PPP loans. Donald Trump let folks out of jail in the hood. These are the things that actually matter. Having a civil rights division that will investigate police killing people in your community and abusing people in African American communities. That's why voting is so important. It's not just the top line issues, it's the direct issues that affect your communities.
I still, Rebecca, don't understand why the Biden administration is not touting all of the great things the DOJ is doing. They're going to have another major decision tomorrow dealing with redlining. So I'm sitting here going, for this administration, you're having wins. You should be touting that, celebrating that.
I think that there is a calculation that if they tout too many quote unquote pro-Black things, that is going to erode the number of white folks who are going to turn out and support the Biden administration next November 2024. Now, do I think that calculation?
But these wins aren't even pro-Black. They're literally throwing in jail wardens and jail officers and correction officers and police officers. And what they're saying is, hey, you know what? And they've given more money to cops, but this is a way to say, this is what we're doing to be effective. But yeah, I think sort of this fear is like, this whole, we want to be tough on crime, but that's only when it comes to offenders and not when it comes to the thuggish cops.
Right. There's also a misconception that when it comes to ending police brutality, when it comes to demanding that law enforcement officers are actually professional, actually doing their jobs, it's still viewed as a Black issue for many white folks, in this country. Like, look, I grew up in quote unquote middle America. I grew up in Nebraska. And when you talk about police reform, people view that as a Black thing, not a, hey, this is a society thing. We're giving these people a gun and a badge. We need to make sure that they're professional. They're actually doing their job.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, we have to do a better job at making sure that people know how the things that the Biden administration, in this case, has accomplished affect their day-to-day lives for the better. And to remind, let's connect what's going on in Congress right now and saying, so right now, nobody's voting because there's no leadership. But when they were voting, let's talk about what they were voting for, or more to the point, what they weren't voting for. Didn't vote for the infrastructure package. Largely, there were a few. Didn't vote for some of the other things that got done. Most of the biggest legislative achievements that affect people's lives on a day-to-day basis, Republicans did not vote for. And so it really has to be made part of the narrative to let folks know, here's the things that have been accomplished. And you think that this election is about Biden being old. First of all, if you're voting for Trump, it's kind of a horse apiece because he's only a couple years younger. Second of all, this election is about preserving democracy. And so they really have to be intentional about making sure that we paint that narrative because it's the right one.
Indeed. All right, Robert, Rebecca, Joe, I certainly appreciate y'all joining us. Thank you so very much, folks. That's it for us. Don't forget, support us in what we do here at the Black Star Network. It's important for you to join our Brina Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do while we are battling these advertisers and these ad agencies who continue to ignore Black-owned media. Send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com. roland@rolandmartinunfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Download the audio version on Audible and be sure to check out our 24-hour streaming channel available on multiple platforms, including Amazon News, Plex TV, Amazon Freevee, as well as Amazon Prime Video. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?